Now, although she does claim that she fights for men's rights because it's too easy for a man convicted based on a lie, that people will help out women who commit those crimes. See, she speaks about many of the things I speak about, but she also assumes. See, one of the reasons the men are so horribly abused in this country is because of women like Chloe Roma. She's Canadian, which is why I say women like Chloe Roma. Now, there's a pedophile that she's protecting, but she's also condemning other people who are pedophiles. If I'm being quiet about a pedophile, it's not because I'm protecting the pedophile, it's because they still have access to the victim. And speaking up about the predator publicly, when they still have access to the victim, could easily result in the victim being murdered. That being said, why did I break every single rule when it came to Natalie Bollinger? Why did I break the privacy rules about her addictions? Why did I break the privacy rules about her predators? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. I was being abused as if I was one of those predators. I was being treated, and still am, being treated like I was a pedophile, or a rapist, or a murderer. Now, you notice I never molested Natalie Bollinger. She never claimed that I molested her. She never claimed that I raped her. Natalie and Alicia Bollinger didn't do any of their own dirty work. They had other people do it for them. Now, Chloe Roma should know better than to just assume a person's guilt, especially as she claims to be a men's rights advocate. Now, don't get me wrong, one of the pedophiles, the one that she was going off on, that the picture on the front is taken from, yeah, that guy was convicted. I also happen to know that, well, this is actually something that Chloe Roma herself speaks about, that a man can go to prison based on literally no evidence. How a man is not heard by the courts. Yes, a man can be convicted based on a woman's opinion of what he might do. Whereas a man is actually being abused and has lots of actual evidence, he's still not likely to get heard unless he has money and support. Specifically, female support. Now then we've got, well, the situation that Chloe Roma is talking about, where it's a woman who's getting a hold of Chloe Roma, saying, hey, my husband's not a sex offender. He's a registered sex offender, but there was no evidence against him at all. That sucks. The words of the victims need to be heard. However, I've known women who have done some pretty fucked up things in order to try to play victim when they got busted. Women who got busted cheating on their husband, so they claim their husband beat on them. No marks, though. How strange is that? When I was assaulted, the police definitely left marks. I have a high iron content, though, so it's difficult to make me bruise. And yet the officers were able to make me bruise. But nobody would take pictures of it while I was locked up. They ignore it, or they try to go out of their way to, well, for example, when I was in prison in Lincoln, Nebraska, the guard wanted to take a picture of my injuries at the hands of the guards there. But she wanted to do it through a dirty-ass window. She also wanted to write down my report for me. That's something that's common. They'll initiate what's called a use of force. That means that they antagonize you until you get sick of their shit. And then they come in with a camera finally. If you want to make sure what's going on is recorded and that your words are recorded, well, you have to do some pretty desperate shit, like popping a sprinkler. What does that mean? That means you take your jail cup and you smash it over and over and over again against the fire suppression system. And then the fire suppression system spits out a bunch of dirty water. And then they call somebody in to clean it up, and they, of course, call the goon squad in to beat you down and take you somewhere else for temporarily. Usually another cell. The guards in those places use pedophiles to antagonize, bully, and harass those who tell on police officers. If you tell on a police officer, they're going to try to put you in C2, the mental portion of it. See, that's what happens when you tell on a police officer. They pretend like you're schizophrenic and have you locked up. They make it your word theirs. There's no such thing as a good cop. A lot of people that I know have told me that they know a good cop, and then they tell me the story of their good cop, and that story is always about a cop breaking the law to help them get away. That's not a good cop. That's the opposite of a good cop. That's exactly the kind of cop that we don't need. Like Chris telling me, what was his name? Officer Reese, I think, is what he said. Officer Reese finding a 17-year-old boy fucked up on the side of the road on, of course, drugs. That officer had Chris Stafford walk home. That fucked up, underage. That doesn't sound like a good cop. Sounds to me like that cop had a situation there where he should have guaranteed the safety of a minor, and instead he committed felonies that could have gotten a 17-year-old Chris Stafford murdered. By the way, I was looking up Portland murders. How many people were murdered in Portland? Well, out of 101 people that were killed, 196 people who were killed in 2021. An overwhelming majority of them were homeless. So much so that they ignored it in their demographics again. They'll tell you the colors of the people who died. They'll tell you the genders of the people who died. But for some odd reason, they always forget to write down when somebody's homeless, or nearly always. One year in Boulder, Colorado, there were 11 homeless people who died of quote-unquote mysterious causes. I don't see how blunt force trauma to the head and a crushed chest is considered a natural cause either. That's right. They claim the man died of natural causes. His chest was crushed. There is nothing fucking natural about that. Nationwide, 61% of those were killed. 61% were homeless. In Portland, it's 63%. What is 63% of 196? It's about 126, 125, somewhere in there. That's a shit ton of dead hobos. Now that also depends on how you choose to read the demographics. What are those numbers based on? Are those based on actual numbers, or are those projected numbers? Projected numbers basically means a guesstimation, possible future and all that. The thing is, the murders against the homeless are skyrocketing. Up 300% since 2001. 300%. That is massive. But also, since the numbers really haven't changed much as far as their percentages go, you can bet your sweet ass that the people in the houses, that's all. Stop to think to yourself, where the fuck are the drugs coming from? Where are all these drugs coming from? Well, you're picking up small dealers. Small dealers are a dime a dozen. Anyway, it's probably close to 5 in the morning and I need to get some fucking sleep. I can't get any sleep though. Too fucking overwhelmed. I tried telling you all that there was a serial killer in Portland. I tried to fucking tell you. Of course, people wanted to treat me like I'm fucking nuts. There's actually two of them, by the way, not just one. Police came out months after I spoke up. They came out last month, June 4th. June 4th to June 6th. Portland Police Department decided that none of those murders were connected and that a serial killer in the area was just speculation and rumor, and there was no evidence of it. Thank goodness people kept up the pressure. Thank goodness. Every one of you who kept up the pressure against those son of a bitches and made them do their goddamn jobs, I want to thank you. I'm sorry I can't travel around and personally shake every single one of your fucking hands. But I'm still grateful for what you did. Now I gotta catch the other one. By we, I mean, they're not going to do their jobs. They're just going to ride the check. Unless you work together, like I said from the very start. I told you back in March there was a serial killer. More than likely two of them. Months later, the Portland Police Department says that there is no such a thing. It's basically a figment of all of our imaginations. And then this month, what happens? Turns out the cops were wrong and Sean was right again. By the way, it's not intuition that brings me to this. It's not some magic clairvoyance. It's not a crystal ball. It's not tarot cards. It's simple information. Established fucking patterns. People with Asperger's are great with patterns. Great with code breaking. Great with figuring out shit that most of you are too fucking dumb to put two and two together about. We are highly detail oriented. For the rest of you, well, you just want your fucking paycheck. Who cares if you fucking flop your job and it gets people killed, long as you get paid, right? Gross. Cops aren't gonna do shit. It's up to you to make them do something. And it's unfortunate because most of you who need the help that way are too broke to do it yourselves. If only we had access to unlimited funding, like the police do. Over 90% of law enforcement agencies across the United States I'm sorry, I got sidetracked by a heart pain.